Welcome back, everybody. Another episode coming your way today. Got Fall Mountain head coach, Coach Haskell joins us today. Coach, how you doing? So glad to have you.
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Looking forward to this. So you guys are a top 10 ranked team in the division, in my opinion. You've had a little bit of a tough start, losses to Campbell, Newport, and Kearsarge, but those are also some of the top up teams in the division. So rough schedule to start it off for you guys. What have you learned about your team throughout the first three games of the season?
I think a couple of things we learned, especially the physicality right off with the Campbell team, going on the road and really getting kind of pushed around by those guys. We learned quickly, if you don't push back, it's going to be a long season. So, I think that, then the turnaround to go to Newport where we really struggled and turned the ball over a lot. They do have some nice players there and some nice pieces. And then the Kearsarge game, we battled those guys, got down by 16 a couple of times. I think we had it to 4 with about 4 minutes to go. Just couldn't get over the hump. But, reducing the amount of turnovers, especially over this holiday tournament, and, understanding that, when we get pushed, we got to push back.
We spoke with Coach Camp from Kearsarge yesterday, and he talked about you guys, and he said that you guys are going to be really strong by the end of the year. He expects, as I do, I think, and many people do as well, that once you kind of get more battle tested and get some of these games under your belt, you're going to be very good by the end of the season. Can you talk about the group of kids you have right now and what your expectations are for them by the end of the year?
Yeah, so we came into this year, especially with high expectations because of with the IQ aspect that we thought we had. But Parker and Hearn are a couple of kids that didn't log a lot of minutes. Zach Hearn's a player for us that's gotten close to 20 in the last couple of games. They get 20 against Kearsarge, averaged about 18 in the holiday tournament. But he's a kid, in the first quarter of the Campbell game, played more varsity minutes this year than he did the entire season last year. So, and with Luke St. Pierre and Ledger and Willette, and these guys are they're leaders. Tyson Patch, we have some guys that are coming around right now, and I think that they're learning that valuing each other every day in practice has really started to make us turn the corner. Like I said, this holiday tournament was a couple of nice wins for us. And I really think it will help us push the corner because these guys are buying in and really practicing hard, and they're ready for what the rest of the season is going to look like.
Fantastic. Coach Roy, you got anything?
Sure. Yeah. Coach, I believe this is your second year at Fall Mountain. Is that correct?
Yep.
Now, I know primarily from the girls' side recently, the girls have had a very strong program for years, but the boys have struggled. And maybe you could talk a little bit about some of the things you're doing to increase interest and get the younger kids coming to your games and going, wow, I want to be a Wildcat when I get older, that type of thing with the program building. Yeah,
that's been really an interesting process because I took over as a JV coach 3 years ago, and it wasn't a lot of interest, and I think being, having some charisma and having some relatability to the players, and bringing that fire to the practice and competition, and having these guys want to compete with each other every single day. We had 43 kids try out last year and 37 this year. So
that's awesome.
It's good to have. Last year we had 3 teams. With a freshman team, we didn't do that this year. But no, it's I think a lot of how this is your relatability to these guys and getting them to understand that we may be a little older, but we can still get it. We still understand what it takes to get
Absolutely.
things done.
Now you mentioned the Christmas tournament, and I know I always look forward to Christmas as a time to play my entire squad, look at different combinations, maybe add some things for the future. But you had a unique experience. You guys go and play some Vermont schools, and I believe you must have coached against your son. Is that correct?
Yeah, so it was quite interesting. So I was at Bells Falls for about 12 years before I came over here, and this year Bells, because last year they weren't in it, and this year they are, and he's a freshman at Bells Falls, Morgan, and he had an opportunity to make the make the varsity team. He works really hard and does well, and he lifted his team to a nice overtime win against Windsor on Friday night.
Excellent.
And we had an opportunity to play those guys, Saturday, and it was really fun for me because there's a group of them that I've coached since they've been 5 years old. And
was there a significant amount of trash talk from their side towards you, or
not that? It was fun to go out there, during the pregame and have the high fives and the looks and everything, and it was really fun for me to have that opportunity to do that.
Yeah. I know as a boys coach at Campbell years ago, I always preferred to go out of state when I could. Having coached at Bellows Falls and then moving into New Hampshire, do you see much of a stylistic difference in the type of play?
Yeah, absolutely I do. I think the pace and, I think that just the size and of the players, I think that's the physicality of some of that. Like I talk with my son about it sometimes, and he enjoys going to my games because, not that we like getting dunked on by fellows and guys like that, but, the Vermont guys, you don't see a lot of dunks and that kind of stuff over there. And with us, it's, any given night, you feel like you got a team that could probably throw a couple down. So, it does make that aspect certainly a little more fun.
Yeah. No, I don't want to put any pressure on you, but I think Drew had you ranked in the top 10 in his preseason, didn't you, Drew?
Yeah, I had them at 8. Coach and I talked a little bit. I know Coach thinks that they should have been a little bit higher, but
you got to earn it.
I definitely think they're a top 10 team.
Yeah, I do want to let you know, Coach, because it's your first time with us. Last year on our coaches podcast, whoever Drew had for guests seemed to have a great run. We had Coach Morissette from St. Thomas, and they ended up winning the whole thing. And then we had Coach Camp, and he got to the Final Four. Coach Saucier. So this could be a sign of good things to come for Fall Mountain being a guest on the Drew Dumont Show.
Yeah, I was excited. Because we had a chance to kind of reach out, and I had told Drew, I said 8's good, but we're going to try to prove everyone that we deserve to be better than that, and but that's also going out and getting it done. And we've been a little slow to start, but I think that the Kearsarge game really kind of saw where we can start to get to. So hopefully we turn the corner, and this will help. Hopefully.
Yeah, as Drew mentioned, Coach Camp spoke very highly of your squad. He sees a lot of potential, and I think he's kind of glad he played you early.
We got a chance to talk after the game a little bit, and he was glad that one's out of the way for him. But I have a lot of respect for Coach Camp. He's been good to me since coming over here and taking this job over, and I have a lot of respect for that group and his team, and they're really well-oiled machine over there. They do a great job.
Yeah, Drew.
Yeah. So, Coach, this is your second season coaching this team. So can you talk about kind of the nuances you go through in your first year and how things might be a little bit different this year and just kind of fresher and, more routine now that you've done it for a year as a varsity coach?
Yeah, I think this year, we've tried to get guys to understand and value their role more this year. Last year was kind of like you're trying to figure out who can do what, who can be where, and how things can go. And as things kind of transpire throughout the year, you then can initiate those roles. I think with this group coming back and only losing the couple of seniors that gave us minutes last year, that we have very solid role players that understand, hey, this game may be 3 minutes, this game may be 1 minute, this game may be 10 minutes for me, and I think that they go into practice and really value that hour and a half, 2 hours that we're in the gym every day. So every player, I think understands hey, this could be my day. This could be my day. So they've really worked hard to make sure that they're prepared for every game that we go into.
Fantastic. Starting off the year, you got Derryfield, I think. I'm going to check your schedule again. Yeah, Derryfield, Hillsborough, Stevens. 2 out of those 3 are at home, and Hillsborough is going to be the road game. Where you guys are at, Derryfield, obviously new to the division this year. Hillsborough is a program that they've been trying to work on, seemingly rebuild for a while now. And then Stevens, obviously, they've always been a team that nobody wants to face. But this year they're not quite as strong as they have been in previous years. Can you talk about that upcoming schedule and just trying to build some momentum at the start of 2025?
Yeah, that's where I think, this holiday tournament where we did play Stevens and had a chance to play Bells Falls and, fix, kind of those, the Bells Falls game, maybe one of those get right games, right? Like you fix some things, you tweak some things. The score, is what it is, but the way that we cut and the way that we screened and the way that we fixed and tweaked little things that need to be tweaked is hopefully that what we do as far as getting into the Dairy Field game on Friday and right into Hillsborough and Stevens, who's a big rival game for us. That's a gym will be full. And that's a game that our boys really look forward to every year. But it's one day at a time. Dairy Field is going to come in here, itching and ready. I know that they've had some tough games already this year, so everybody's hungry this year to get those wins and play well. So we're looking forward to Dairy Field on Friday.
You mentioned having, the full home court. That's something that I know, just speaking from, being in Hopkinton and hearing teams from surrounding areas, the bus ride to Fall Mountain is a little bit of a pain in the butt sometimes. You have that going for you.
Yeah.
There's no easy way to get there. I tell you, some of these bus trips where it's just like, oh man, they are seemingly all long. There's no short one.
Highway. Yeah. Yeah, I can vouch for that. Coming as both a boys and a girls coach, that ride to Fall Mountain was, I almost would have preferred going to White Mountains, to be honest with you, because at least you're on the highway most of the way. But Coach, do you see that now in your second year? Do you see that you have a chance early in games to jump teams after that bus ride?
Well, that's, and I think some of that for us as the coaching staff has been trying to figure out, because we're the same way. We're so lethargic sometimes. And I feel like these road games, we have to, as a staff, get better at that because, it's and then you're sitting through the JV game and it's not the easiest bus ride. And these kids don't love it. And some of these kids get off the bus not feeling the greatest. So it does take a little bit of time for that. But it's definitely, we like that advantage, when we're at home and people got to make that awful bus ride over there.
Yeah. So I think with you guys, obviously you're a program on the come up and you're trying to get some of those signature wins under your belt. Obviously now with the 3 games you've already had, you've gotten a chance to play some really good teams. Once you kind of have one of those big signature wins, I guess, against a top team, do you think that's going to really build momentum for your team and you're going to be able to continue that? Because it's the season is a marathon and you got to really sustain that ride throughout the season. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. And even going into how not well we played against Campbell and Newport, going into that Kearsarge game, we were kind of, even playing it a little more as, hey, let's be loose, let's have some fun. We finally get a home game, and even with the score that it was, playing that team, playing Camp's team in Kearsarge, to have it be down 16 and battle back to 4 or 5 points with 4 minutes left, showed a lot of guts for us and showed a lot of heart. And I think that, even in the loss in that aspect, I think we gained and saw hey, we can play with these guys and they're one of the better teams in the whole state. So, but yeah, I think getting that signature win for these guys would really be huge. And the program in general, it's been a while.
Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously we talked about the home away thing. We've talked about some of the top talent around the division. What's your outlook on the division this year? Because, we were talking to Coach Camp. We've talked to other coaches as well, just about the whole scope of the division. There's a lot of teams right now that still don't have a win. And then there's a lot of teams like we talked with Coach Camp about yesterday. We could see 8 to 10 teams realistically making a run at the Final Four. So there's a lot of top teams, and then there's a lot of teams that are struggling to find their way. What's your outlook on the division?
Yeah, the division's really tough. I've had some good conversations with Coach Martinez over at Belmont. We went over and did the jamboree over there, talking with some other coaches. I think that it's with even. Yeah, Mascoma, and we had a chance to play Raymond, and we've seen Belmont, and there's just some of these teams are it's going to be a dogfight. It's going to be. I think it's going to come down to you get that. Can you get that home game? Can you get that first home playoff game? Can you steal a win maybe you shouldn't get somewhere, and put yourself in a position to get those. I think that home court playoff game is going to be really huge for us when push comes to shove at the end of the season.
Yeah, it really looks like there's a tremendous amount of depth of quality teams this year. One of the things that we were talking about with Coach Camp, and as I look at who you've played so far, you've seen a lot of them. It seems like there's a very high level of guard play this year. St. Thomas has the returning player of the year. Of course, you saw Kearsarge, you saw the Whipple brothers up close. You've seen Campbell, who has the transfer guard, who's very good. As a coach game planning for those types of matchups, what are some of the things you look at, and how does your team fit in defending those kind of players?
Yeah, it's some of that is the physicality aspect. So we could teach the schemes, we could teach you where to be, and how to get there, and what to do. But the physicality and the mental toughness really has to come from within our guys. And these guys they're tough, they're physical. And that's something I think that our younger guards are starting to learn a little bit. Like I said earlier, if you're going to get pushed, you got to push back, and if you don't push back, it's going to be a long 32 minutes. So you have to set the tone. We can't keep letting the Campbells and the Kearsarges and Newports and other teams dictate how they want to play. Like, we have to come out and kind of put our foot down and be like, this is how this is the tempo and what we're going to do today.
Yeah, that's a really good point. The skill levels are up, for some of these kids, and it makes it very challenging. If you let them dictate what they want to do, you're in for a long night. You're right.
It is.
That's definitely an important piece as you prepare. What would you say the strength for your club is?
I think our ability to get our guards good looks. We do have Town and Patch, who are 6'5", 6'3".
Mm-hmm.
Guards are 6 foot, so we have some paint presence, which is really good. But with Hearn and Willette and St. Pierre, they shoot the ball really well, and I've never been a coach that loves to shoot 25 to 30 threes a game.
Right.
But you got the guys that can make them.
Yeah.
And you're finding that teams are going to play 3-2 or 1-3-1, and you have an opportunity. I think that's where we held our own against Camper and those guys at Kearsarge, because we could make shots, and when your ability to make those 3-point baskets when you're down 12 and you get a couple stops, changes the game quickly.
Yes. Yeah. I'm with you, Coach. I have never been a big proponent of it unless the right people are shooting it. And if you have the right people to shoot it, it's a very valuable weapon.
It is.
I think the problem in this generation is every kid thinks he can shoot it.
which is why we really try to preach, and we have the guys to operate some pick and roll stuff and really get to the basket and get downhill. Yeah. So we have to that's where the balance kind of comes in, right? Can we get to, I think one of the things we need to do more is try to get to the line, right? Yeah. The dribble penetration, we're settling for some. The looks are good, but don't settle, right? Like, if you can get a layup versus a three, let's try to take the two and get to the line.
Yeah, and you've been playing from behind a little bit early in the year, and when you're behind and you can get to the line, you're scoring with the clock off, and that's important too. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, Drew, we're gonna keep doing coach talk if you don't cut me off.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to talk a bit because you guys just talked about offense a little bit, just more about your defensive philosophy as a coach, and obviously you have your own stuff that you kind of like to put in as a coach, like every coach does, but also you have to adapt to what you have with your team. So can you talk about your defense and just the way that you guys go about playing defense there at Fall Mountain?
Yeah. So even back to the summer. We've really tried to implement, better man defense and better help line and better coverage and rotations. Hasn't been great. You're facing, the scorers at Newport and Campbell and Kearsarge, who's got guys that can just get after it. And, if we're not better about being able to play man defense, it sets you up for failure when every team knows, hey, Fall Mountain's just going to sit in this zone or sit in this zone or sit in this zone, and it's your man defense has to be important. And we put a heavy emphasis on that. And as a staff, I have to be better at making sure that we're doing what we need to do to be better.
Fantastic. Final things I want to get to for today. I wanted to ask you just like every team's goal is a championship at the end of the season, no doubt. But there's about 22 teams in the division and only one can win it. For you to look back and reflect on the season in the end and say, hey, maybe we didn't win a championship, but we had a successful season. What would that be? What would you have to accomplish this year in order for you to say, hey, we had a great year?
I think it starts with, like even last year, my philosophy was, being that this program hasn't won a lot of games over the past even 10 years or so, to be 500 last year was huge for this program in the area, really kind of brought things back on the map. And, our goal to start with this year, like you said, is to win a championship. That home playoff game we just kind of talked about I don't know the last time they've had one over there. I've tried to look back and it's been a long, long time. And, I think, as you mentioned with the community and bringing that and having that gym full for a home playoff game, I think you would just ramp up the excitement in the area. I think it would be huge.
Awesome. Anything else you want to add?
I don't think so. I certainly thank you guys for having me on and having the opportunity to come on and talk to you guys today. I love doing this stuff. It's really fun.
Yeah. Well, it was really nice to meet you, Coach. I wanted to throw this out there. Probably right before the tournament, Drew and I are going to try to put together a tournament preview look, and we'd love to have you back.
Absolutely.
I'm looking at your schedule, and it looks like other than St. Thomas, you see every good team in the division. So
yes, we do. Yes, we do.
So you'll have a great perspective on some of these matchups. But thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, no, thank you guys again very much. I really appreciate the time.
Thanks so much, Coach. Loved having you.
Have a good day. Thanks, guys.